Okay. So what we're going to do here, because of the inflammation, if we can get a close-up right here. Can you see that? Okay, so what I want to do is I wanted to lance that at one point, but I'm not familiar with the anatomy of what's going on underneath there. So since she's gone, I'm going to make an incision and we're going to learn about where, if that would be a good place to cut if you were to make an incision. I'm just going to go over what I've learned in another video, but for educational purposes, we're just going to go ahead and open that up. And I want to know if it was something that I could have relieved on my own. Okay, so we can get in close. All right, so all right. So I'm going to cut that right here. Okay, so it's not a whole lot of tissue there. Still mostly liquid, but there's, yeah. Okay, so it looks like we have some solid infection in there. This is something that would have had to have been scraped out. Let's go ahead and go back up around this way. Sorry, guys. Oh, God, this just... Okay. Okay. So it seems to be pretty solid tissue right here to the bone, but in the front it opens up. There's kind of a cavity, and that would probably be what I would guess the sinuses that would go in through there and help it come out her nose or back up, and why it was bubbling out of her tear duct. Now, when you look at that, it's not very deep, but see, this is a pretty traumatic incision to do to a bird when they're still alive. And it looks like some of that, see I could have probably, okay. See, I could have probably gotten her a lot of pressure, but the thing was, because she was so underweight, she was 2.17 pounds, and I had to get her, I tried to get her up to 3.5 pounds, so she was heavy enough to survive the anesthesia. So we were going to make an incision, but it just, as you can see, it just didn't end that way. So it's kind of a cavity. You see how deep it goes in there? That's all infection down in there. See, in the very beginning, when she just had a little bit of puffiness and she had the pus freely flowing out of the sinuses, that's when I should have introduced her to steam. But after it stopped and plugged up and started backing up, anytime I added steam after that point, I was actually making it worse, because it was getting the juices flowing again, but it had nowhere to go, so it was puffing up. And it was actually making things worse. And here comes Dummy. He's got to get up in here and get in the picture. And she started getting it on this side too. Now, I don't know if you guys could tell, but because the infection was so bad through here, it's kind of hard to open. But right underneath the sinuses going down the throat was starting to inflame, and she couldn't close her mouth, and it was actually keeping it crooked, if you could see the front. And you could see necrosis setting in. That's the roof of her mouth, the conal slit. I mean, that just wasn't good. I learned too little, too late. And now my baby's gone. If anything we can get out of this, guys, is look, you have to watch their weight as soon as they start. This was not bird flu. This was just a sinus condition. Bird flu, you die within 24 hours. As you know, I've recently followed a guy on YouTube who had to call almost 300 hens because one infected bird got in, and within 24 hours, half of them were falling over. You got to start with the steam right away, and if they get below 3.5 pounds, you have to get them to a vet before they go under 3.5 pounds, because if they get any lighter than that, then they're not going to survive the anesthesia if you're lucky enough to find a vet. So I'm going to go ahead and lay my baby to rest. And hopefully this can help you guys when you start seeing the puffiness start to set in. You gotta move quick. Start with the steam. Keep those sinuses flowing. And look at some of my previous videos on how to use a science pipette to get into the slot of the nose with saline so you can flush it easy. It's not that difficult, but you just have to have the right tools. And nobody else on YouTube talks about stuff like that. So here I am, learning from trial and error, and it's always usually the ones that mean the most to me that teach me the most. So anyway, guys, I would say I hope you enjoyed the video, but you'd be kind of messed up if you did. But at least I hope you learned something. I gotta get rid of her now. So I gotta cut some lumber outside, get her a funeral pyre going, and then I'll do a separate video for that. I always honor my girls. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.